Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Patrick Riggins Show. We're playing an old school tune by a band called Living Colour, singing about the cult of personality. Just listen to these lyrics coming up. Excellent, excellent lyrics. I exploit you, still you love me. I will tell you 1 and 1 makes 3. If you want to check that song out, just Google cult of personality lyrics. The reason I wanted to lead in with this song was because this segment is going to be about just that, a cult of personality. If you don't know what that is, a cult of personality is akin to hero worship of an individual. The difference is a cult of personality is established through the use of mass media and distributed propaganda. Usually this propaganda is proliferated through the use of imagery, creating this stylized and most of the time fictional, bigger-than-life persona, which is used to control others. Now, through the years, we have seen this in totalitarian regimes. During a drive through one of these countries, you would see displays of the leader and how magnificent yet caring this person was, all in an effort to sell the population on the thought that even though this person was almost godlike, he still cared for them as his children. This leads to a cult-like devotion to the leader and the surrendering of all basic and natural rights to the state and ultimately this leader, this great person who cares and protects them from whatever the leader deems as a danger to their society. In return, they are so mesmerized by this almost divine being, they will make whatever sacrifices this leader deems necessary, even death. This is what we have been seeing start to occur in our presidential elections in this country. An almost deification of our candidate or candidates, an indoctrination of a large part of the population. We are told by multiple media and supposed news outlets how this person is the answer to our problems. How before they came along, we had no hope, no chance of making it on our own. This propaganda is continued throughout the 24/7 news cycle by multiple, quote, trusted people. And if this many people are all saying pretty much the same thing, then it must be true, right? If this false savior wins office and doesn't deliver on their promises, a large portion of the population is now disillusioned. They say they have been lied to, but yet they still buy the storyline from the next so-called divinity to come along and tell them what they want to hear. So what happens when the American citizens start putting too much power and glory in one person? Or not even just one person, but one entity, such as the federal government. Here's the answer from Daniel Hannan. He is a member of the European Parliament, and back near the first of the year, he gave a speech and made a few interesting comments I'd like to play for you, starting with this one.
If you repeat our mistakes, if you shift power from the 50 states to Washington, from the elected representative to the federal czar, from the citizen to the state, we know exactly what lies in store for you. I've been a member of the European Parliament for 12 years. I am living in your future, or at least the future towards which your present leaders seem intent on taking you. And believe me, my friends, you are not going to enjoy it.
What Mr. Hannan is trying to warn us about is losing America, losing what makes us unique, and that is our freedoms and liberties. In this next clip, he paints a picture of an America under the types of reforms these big government types want to make.
You look at the reforms being undertaken by this administration, they're not a series of random initiatives that have just been lashed together accidentally. They amount to a comprehensive policy of Europeanization. European healthcare, European daycare, European college education, European nuclear disarmament, European carbon taxes, the whole package. And I tell you, when you adopt those things, you don't just become like any other country. You become less prosperous, less independent, less democratic, and less free.
So, what is the solution? It is what I've stated on this show over and over. Congress.
It turns out that most of the reasons why you're in a mess are really not to do with the White House. It's the Congress that sets the budgets. It's the Congress that has presided over the debt.
Congress. Congress is the problem. They are the ones passing the budget. They are the ones raising the debt limit. Here, Mr. Hannon gives some advice on how to select a congressional representative.
And what kind of congressman do you want? Well, look, we've all got our perfect definition, right? We all agree that it's someone who wants to spend less, someone who wants to give powers back. I would summarize it like this. Every congressman should take his oath of office seriously. That's all you need. They stand up there and they promise to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. If they really mean that, that's enough for me.
But electing the representative who understands the Constitution and the limits placed on government is not the only critical component. You have to ensure this person realizes their place in history as well, and here he addresses that in this final clip.
The greatness of a constitution like this is reflected in the people who serve under it. And the most vital commodity in politics is the humility to understand that you are not bigger than the government that you serve.
I love that quote. If you take anything from this segment, take that. The most vital commodity in politics is the humility to understand you are not bigger than the government you serve. This is what I mean by this whole cult of personality. We tie so much up in the presidential election that Congress gets off almost scot-free. Everyone puts their hopes and their dreams in this one person, this presidential candidate, when it is Congress we should be worrying about. The president cannot do anything without Congress. Now, you may say, what about all these executive orders? Congress could stop that immediately. Just refuse to fund whatever the president is trying to do. No money, no action. That's how it works. But here we have a Congress bellyaching about the president getting away with doing this or that, when it is them who funds all of this garbage. They hold the purse strings and can vote to stop anything they want. Why does this happen? Because selling you on one person is much easier than trying to sell you on 535. For those of you who don't know, that is a total members of Congress. Our founders knew the inherent danger of concentrating all this power into one place. They had lived under a king and understood the problems of a cult of personality. They understood that distributing power out to the people would make it much harder for any one person or group to seize control and rule instead of serve the people. But businesses and other groups understand their money is best spent in one place. Having power concentrated in Washington helps them spend their money in the best and most efficient way possible. If you have to lobby all 50 states plus all the local city and county governments, their money wouldn't go nearly as far or be as influential. So, you see, we citizens are fighting against all of this, but we wield the one thing that can turn these problems around: our vote. Many people have already sold their vote to the highest bidder, but fortunately there are enough of us who haven't that we can still make a difference. Now, supposedly intelligent people will say your vote, your one vote doesn't matter. When you engage them in debate, you start to see they're talking about the presidential election. Well, who cares? As I stated before, the president cannot do anything without Congress approving it. Make sure the representative you're voting for is one who will stick to the Constitution and only do what is allowed under it. Everything else gets voted no. But just your vote isn't enough. You need to get out and help convince your friends, your co-workers, everyone in your inner circle to vote for this representative who's going to follow through on their congressional oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, and that means obeying it. By working within your inner circle, you convince people who can now work within their inner circle, and so on. And that's where we'll start to get this problem turned around that we're having in this country. And at that point, too, you'll be able to tell your children and your grandchildren that you did not stand idly by and watch events unfold. You worked to make a difference. And who knows, you may be the person, or one of your kids may be the person who leads this country back from the brink of socialism, and into just a much better tomorrow. We're already up on the bottom of the hour break here on the Patrick Regan Show. We'll go to some commercials. We'll come back with a couple of things from Judge Napolitano, and then we'll get to your calls. This is Patrick Regan with the Patrick Regan Show.